Hello everyone, welcome back to the SMITE Comprehensive Guide to Yemoja. We will be talking about support Yemoja here. We'll be talking about the baseline of Yemoja, some really interesting points that you might want to consider when you're playing Yemoja. I'll be talking about some matchups, things like that. And of course, right off the top, we're at the loading screen. We're looking at the enemy team composition. Now, as a support, once again, I am primarily looking at my own team comp to decide, well, what starter item am I going to use? Now with Yemoja, again, I usually just go right into War Flag most of the time, and in fact, this is a good team composition for that. Besides myself and Tribdis really benefiting from attack speed bonus, Poseidon actually does benefit from a certain amount of attack speed thanks to his second ability, the Trident something or other, and Bellona, of course, has fairly strong auto-attack potential anyways. Even if she builds towards abilities, there's nothing wrong with giving her a bit of attack speed. Even Thanatos, with his attack chain ending with a AoE on his third hit, even he benefits from a certain amount of attack speed. So everyone on the team in some way can benefit from an attack speed boost, which is really nice. But now we have to turn our attention to the enemy team composition, and there's nothing really standout here. I am assuming, based on this composition, that everyone's going to be playing as standard roles. This is a fairly safe assumption. However, what I am paying attention to is that Neith and Sun Wukong have fairly strong self-heals. So I'm going to be wanting to keep a very careful eye on Scylla, Maui, and Cleona to see if any of them build up enough self-healing to make anti-healing really worthwhile, because maybe I don't want or need anti-healing. It really depends on how the match goes or whatever. Since Sun Wukong is actually fairly difficult to anti-heal against because aura-based anti-heals, in case you didn't know, such as Pestilence and Contagion, really don't affect his ult healing, and even when you bust out anti-healing from, say, Toxic Blade or Brawler's Beatstick as good examples, that is only going to last a certain amount of time with his ult. So his ult is one of the, I think, the only heal I can think of off the top of my head in which you can't stop it. Okay, not completely. Neith, of course, you can do the usual things for anti-healing with, but I am thinking about all of this. So Neith is really the only healing I can actually do anything with, so it's going to really be interesting to see if the enemy team brings enough self-heal. Now we're going to go ahead and skip a minute in here. Now, the really interesting thing with the Yemoja is, even though it sounds like one Omi every 5 seconds is incredibly slow, it's really not. Okay, with her abilities costing 2 to 3 Omi per ability cast, it's actually a fairly quick process. I think this volume is way too low here. I'm still messing with my volume since my graphics card updated, so if the video is a little too loud, please let me know. Anyways, back to the main point here. So Yemoja has a hideously great sustain, okay, compared to literally everyone else. Now, what you're going to do here is, you'll notice first off that I am perfectly okay with first hitting this. I've mentioned before with some supports, you don't want to be first hit, you want the ADC to be first hit, because that's going to pull the camp towards the edge a little faster, giving you a little less time to purple, right, to travel to purple. Because Yemoja has a ranged auto, this isn't really a concern. Whoever first hits, and that's really not a big deal. Now, what I'm going to specifically do is cast my first ability twice. The reason why is we get this done faster, and I have Hog specifically because even though Omi regenerates really quickly compared to Mana, I still want to have full Omi for the first wave to get that early game advantage. So it's very important. I'm going to pause this for a second because some support mains don't like using Hog, some do. I tend to, but I'll not do so if the team composition is correct. But with the Yemoja, you always want Hog, even if you don't normally build it, because to use abilities on the purple compared to Hog is going to take you too long unless you cast twice, which is going to put you so far down on Omi that you're not going to have any by the time you actually get to wave, which is very concerning since, unlike with Mana, and this is the only downside to Omi as a resource compared to Mana, unlike with really every other support in the game, except possibly Kukulin, but that's a conversation for a different video, your War Flag, Sentinel's Gift, whatever starter item you prefer, that isn't going to bring back your mana. when the totem is grabbed by your solo laner or jungler, that's not going to restore your Omi either. These all just serve to heal you instead. So, unlike with the other ways you would normally rejuvenate mana and sustain longer or have a a really fresh impact, you actually have to really carefully manage your Omi, even though it does regenerate faster, where it becomes this really interesting, unironically ebb and flow type playstyle, which is again probably intentional into Yemoja's design. She's very well designed for that. So we always want to use Hog to make sure we have full Omi for this point. Now we're going to throw out the bubble, and then I'm going to try to stun the enemy really very specifically. I missed the stun, it's fine. Throw out a bubble to pull minion aggro. Stun Neith successfully the second time, and now I'm all out of Omi. Now I'm okay with being out of Omi at this point, because the really big, important thing here is to clear that first wave as quickly as possible. You want to hit level 2, you want to get the Riptide very specifically. There is a reason for this. You get the Riptide in case you need to retreat, you get the Riptide in case you want to press an attack, if you want to force someone out of tower or repossession wave, one of the two. She tries to counterattack, she fails, we're pressing. Now notice that I'm trying, occasionally to heal Tribdis. At this particular point, considering where Neith is shooting, you can actually see, hold on. So I activate this for some extra damage. We get some good damage in on Neith. Now I'm body blocking for Charybdis here because Neith is shooting at this area. She's aiming at me for now, but she'll probably be shooting at Charybdis. And then Neith starts shooting at... now, I make a mistake here. I think that Neith is shooting at the minions. She's clearly shooting for Charybdis, so I make a minor mistake. I realize what Neith is doing, and I move to body block. Right, it takes me a couple of seconds to figure out Neith isn't going for waves at all. She doesn't care. She's going for Charybdis, so I move to body block. What I was originally doing with being behind Charybdis was I was trying to heal her and then hit the mini wave because I was assuming that Neith was going to go for the mini wave. Most people do, but no, she was shooting Charybdis, which means that instead of healing Charybdis, which at this low of a level isn't going to outpace Neith's damage, I needed to body block for her. Alright, that's very specifically what happened there. Now I want to go for the rod, she's going for it too, that's great. Now this is a really big reason why I want Riptide at level 2. You're going to see me position myself like this, so that way no matter which way they come, if they try to steal this, I can put a Riptide down and block that particular pathway. Alright, I don't have to here, but it's something I'm thinking about when we're taking it, and that's a really nice thing. I'm going to pause this for a second. It's a really nice thing to keep in mind with Riptide is you can completely block off those two closer entries into that area. And even the farther ones that I've, like the ones that I've warded, it's very difficult to maneuver around a Riptide ring as an enemy and get in that range. So that's why you want Riptide as your second every time. It's just really not an option. It's with Yemoja, it's so easy to, as you saw earlier, it's so easy to get that first wave dominance by just blasting the wave with 4 abilities. Get to level 2, grab the Riptide, you're almost guaranteed to be in a position to be able to get the I can't ever remember what this rod thing is called, but you're almost always going to be in a position to get the rod, and you want to defend it, and Riptide is actually the more efficient way of doing that. Okay? Just as an aside. Now at this particular point I'm trying to stun out the Maui. Could I have used a Riptide there? I could have, but at this point I don't know if he has his jump up, so I don't bother because we can just jump over it. Same thing with Neith, she can backflip after being Riptided, so in this particular instance, if I do use the Riptide, it's to close distance for me, not really to force the enemy closer, because it's unlikely to be very successful, unless I see them use their escape very specifically. So, once again, we cleared the wave. I used my stun earlier. Actually, let me go back to that. I used my stun very specifically to try to force Neith. Ideally stun Neith, but instead just Neith, so which is good enough. Now I pick up my second ability here, the Mending Waters, just in case we need a health shield. It's entirely possible if you get ganked that might be more helpful than, say, a bubble, right? It really depends on which version your first ability is at. I throw out the stun, she backflips, unfortunately, that's fine. See that level 2 he used his jump, there it was. Now, could I have Riptided there? Sure, but right now we're trying to clear this wave, because what I want to do is go for perfect. Right, so instead of trying to Riptide, I'm specifically using the first ability here. Charybdis really dedicates here. She gets a bit of hope from the power from Maui pulling her in. I'm going to stop and heal her. She wants to go for purple. I'm a little concerned at this point because she's not at her healthiest, but, you know, let's go. I'm also very concerned because if you've been paying attention to the minimap, I don't know where the jungler is right now. Okay, so I'm kind of nervous, which is why I'm facing this way. I'm very specifically trying to watch out for potentially a jungle gank. Doesn't happen, but that's what I was worried about right there. I wasn't as worried that the enemy duo lane was going to try to interrupt. They were very low on health and mana. In fact, you can see me not doing very well over there. At this particular point, from here on out, besides leveling up my ult, I'll be leveling up my first ability, because that's my wave clear, that's my really significant damage contribution here. So that's really what I'm trying to do there. I'm trying to poke out Neith. I want her to back, very specifically. Alright? I'm assuming she has enough mana for backflip, which is why I didn't Riptide that. I believe she does. Backflip isn't really an expensive ability. We're running back to help Thanatos with the purple, ideally. I'm checking to see Maui's build. You can see, actually, let me go back for that really quick, because there's a couple of things I noticed, but my primary concern right there was the Maui build, right? I'm kind of wondering what he's building. He's going for the Gauntlet of Thebes. Now, this is very interesting, because what he's basically banking on, quite correctly, is the late game, alright? Now, Yemoja has a huge early game advantage, as you've seen so far. So Maui has decided, alright, so the correct move here would be for me to bank on the late game and go for Gauntlet of Thebes. This is the correct decision. His only mistake, actually, is going for War Flag. With his team composition, there is an argument to be made that Sun Wukong can benefit from attack speed, because his clone, when he uses his ult, whatever his attack speed is at that time, his clone copies that attack speed. So there is some potential there, but it's a relatively unreliable thing, and a lot of Sun Wukong players tend to build ability-based in the first place. Another really interesting thing here, which is actually not as incorrect as maybe you might think at first glance, but Neith's use of Mannequin Scepter. Mannequin Scepter in this particular case is actually a really strong starter pick for Neith, because, as I mentioned earlier, pretty much everyone on my team has really good auto-attack potential here. In fact, you can see Thanatos himself has mannequins, which is a surprise that I noticed very briefly. It doesn't make a huge difference, because it just complements my War Flag, but it is very interesting that the Thanatos is utilizing the attack speed, right? It's just a very interesting little facet there that I really personally appreciated. It really just accentuates my War Flag, so I'm happy to see this. It's an unusual pick for Thanatos, don't get me wrong, but it is welcomed here. But yeah, for the Maui, the War Flag is an interesting pick. Maybe it'll work out for him, maybe it won't. I'm inclined to say at this point it won't, because again, most Sun Wukongs go for ability-based damage output, so War Flag isn't really going to help there. But we'll have to see. But other than that, we're looking at some fairly standard builds here. So we're popping over here for the purple. We're in time to get at least some golden experience. That's fine. Now, you might be wondering why I'm not rotating yet. I generally try to rotate at level 5, and Maui's still here, so there's no risk in me staying around for a little bit longer. He's going to be level 4 for a little bit longer. I know for a fact I'm going to hit level 5 here. I hit level 5, I'm going back. I want to force Maui into the mid lane, because Charybdis right now is a level up on Neith, and I want them to be boxing each other, right? I want them to be alone. So off I go. I Riptide out so that way I can move a little faster here. And I'm just going to be heading to mid here. Again, I'm primarily looking to get Maui to rotate to mid lane, so Charybdis can hopefully curb stomp Neith a little bit there. That's the plan. I want to go for the experience camp, then the enemy jungler and show up, so at this point trying to pick out. And at this particular point, I'm just trying to keep an eye on the situation. I'm warding pretty aggressively here because, again, I'm Yemoja. I have a really strong presence here. I'm pretty sure Scylla knew I was warding there. I did not call Cleodina going left. I really should have. I just saw her go left. That's a mistake on my part. Okay. That is an error. There is the potential that Bellona gets ganked if she's too aggressive about things. And in fact, she does go into their jungle, or she thinks about it anyways. She was just planning a ward. Excuse me. I thought she was going to steal their Scorpion there for a second. Yes, I would like to point out that me not volunteering the information that Cleodina went left, that is a mistake on my part. Now, I was originally going to go over and check out Duo Lane to see how Trigus was doing, but I decided against it. Right now, I'm just trying to poke out Scylla. Poke, 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 poke. Right? Good. You know, poking accomplished. Clear the wave. Get some more poke going on here. Now, Poseidon hard commits on this. And I'm like, alright, let's roll in on this. Right? And then, Maui has a great ult here, and I died for this. Because I went in without... Now, I want you to really understand this, right? So, the Poseidon Kraken's here, right? If I had just used my Belt of Frenzy, he probably would have died. Oh, I'm sorry, Sybil probably would have died there, right? But I'm like, okay, I don't want the Poseidon to waste that ult. I'm really healthy. I should not have gone in here. This is a huge mistake on my part, because I don't have enough information for an educated decision. I know Scylla's there, and I know she's almost dead. I have no idea where Maui is. I have no idea where Cleodina is. I know Sun Wukong is dead. Right, but I don't know where Cleodina or Maui are. So me going in like this is a huge mistake. I see Maui showing up and I immediately turn around, but it's too late for me. I get absolutely slapped. Right, so does Poseidon. Right, but they're focusing on me primarily. I don't. And I'm pretty sure that Poseidon died as well. Yeah, he dies here. And that was he wouldn't have gone in if I hadn't, so that is entirely my bad choice, and that was a bad choice, not necessarily because tower diving itself is a problem at this early, but the problem was I didn't have the information to make that an educated decision. I'm going to be increasing Belt of Frenzy because I know, reflectively, that I didn't use it because I didn't want it to be on cooldown. If I had used it, we wouldn't have even needed to do that in the first place, but that was a very poor decision on my part, and it did get Poseidon killed as well. Okay, this is why decision making is so very important for supports. This time I actually called a Cleodina missing, and now at this particular point I'm just trying to make sure that the wave doesn't do anything crazy. I'm trying to get Maui off of the wave here. I'm trying to stall it out for Poseidon. I'm not looking for too much here. He backs off a little bit. I back off a little bit because I see Poseidon coming up. I see the wave coming up. I accidentally kill a minion. Whatever. Right? And here we go. And we're just pulling the wave, getting some hope. Pulling minion aggro with the bubble, so Poseidon doesn't take as much poke. I see Scylla making a move. She probably thought her Maui was going to initiate. He doesn't, but she probably thought about it. And I'm just trying to get some nice poke on Maui. Poseidon ults again. And this time we actually have a really good shot at this. And then I get that. Now Maui makes a mistake here. This second ult is a huge error on Maui's part. Now, the reason it worked out so well the first time, and his first ult is probably the reason why he's ulting here, the reason it worked out so well the first time is because he was nearly full health at the time and Cleodina was nearby. Right, now Cleodina might still be nearby, but we're already here, and you can see where it looks pretty confident that Poseidon is going to get out. Sun Wukong is alive, but he's clearly not on his way. Thanatos is nearby and in a much better position to help, but he's almost dead. Maui is almost dead here, right? So this becomes a very, very unwise decision. He's very likely going to die as a result of this because I, of course, have my Omi. I go in. I'm fine. I'm going to get out. This is not an issue. Maui chases me, and for some unholy reason, I just kill him with my abilities because, again, Omi. And Poseidon escapes because Scylla apparently didn't explode her crush. Thanatos kills her. Now, Thanatos was able to kill her because, quite frankly, Maui forced a fight that he wasn't going to survive. Alright, even if he hadn't come after me right here, hold on, let me go back a little bit. Even if he hadn't come back for me right after this ult, because I obviously am going to get out, Scylla is not that concerned. She's looking to try to press the Poseidon. Now, the Scylla does make the correct decision here. She is going after the Poseidon. That's the correct decision. Maui, I'm not sure what he's thinking here. Thanatos is ulting. I can actually see him ulting over here. I know he's ulting. He says, all attack, be careful. Middle, I know he's coming in. Maui, even if Maui had stood under the tower because of the range of my bubble, I still stood a pretty good chance of either killing him or slowing him down enough where Thanatos could do so. Right, Maui is doomed by him charging forward at me for a bit there, because he only decides after the fact. You can actually see where he's being aggressive here. right? So I take some poke, but I can handle it because I have sovereignty. And then you can see him approaching me to pursue me despite having almost no HP for some unholy reason. So, oops. That was a bit of a mistake. Where did I go? There's this. That's where we died. That's what I get for clicking on the wrong thing. Here we go. We're close. Yes. So, I can handle this damage because of the sovereignty. He's clearly chasing after me here, and I just kill him because he only retreats after the fact, right? You can actually see here where the Poseidon should have died. She should have popped this right here, why she didn't. I know she was silenced at the moment, but she could have popped it right before, right afterwards, and she still didn't. But could she have killed Poseidon there? Probably, yeah. So it could have been a trade if Thanatos wasn't right there. And again, that would have gone worse if Cleodna was there. And why? Now, that's an interesting thing. I don't know where Cleodna was. But he did. He knew where Cleodna was and still initiated that fight despite Cleodna apparently not being close enough to participate in that fight for some reason. I don't know what his thought process was there, right? It makes very little sense. Again, I do think that a lot of his decision there was because his first ult was so incredibly effective, a second ult can't go wrong, which of course, in different circumstances, that's not true. Now, at this point, I'm going to be using Mending Waters as kind of a safeguard. The reason why is because I don't know where Cleodna is, right? So even though Mending Waters isn't a huge amount of health shield, it's still enough where maybe it'll save his life. Now Poseidon is going way over here. He's checking the blue buff. That's fine. It's an interesting decision, considering we don't know where Cleodna is, but there's two of us. It's not too much of a problem. It's just a little, basically, thought experiment there. We're going to return to middle lane. We're going to be looking to clear the wave. Now we play correctly, tries to initiate. I throw out my ult. In retrospect, I probably should not have, because he does have his jump up, and I assume he had his jump up. Now, actually, this is something really interesting here that I do. I use my ult probably unwisely, alright? Well, I know the primary reason I want to use it for with my Omi, and right here, I am forcing the Poseidon out, because right now, Poseidon's low on health, and the Scylla has just come back fresh from the fountain. I don't want this fight. Okay, I am not looking for a fight here. I did not want to initiate this fight. I'm just trying to keep Poseidon alive. I intentionally riptided him to bring him out of root range for Scylla, right? So I'm at this point, and there it was, right? She threw out the root, barely misses it, right? We're getting some good damage in on Maui, but my chief concern here is still Poseidon. I activate this out of desperation. I'm hoping that there's this at this point, hoping to take the bid. And somehow Poseidon maneuvers through all that and kills Maui, which is a miracle. Absolutely no idea how. Cleodna shows up a little bit too late. And at this point, my primary concern here is still Poseidon. Right, everything I've done so far has been to try to keep Poseidon alive. She dives really deep for this. She does get him. We get her. It works out. Ultimately, it's an even trade. We also got Maui, so it's actually a win for us. At this point, hold on. Right, so she dies. Good overall. Charybdis dies to Neith. Now, at this particular point, I'm kind of concerned. We're fairly even on score here. We're 6 and 6 each side. My team has 1,300 more gold due to, I guess, better jungle farming. I'm at this point concerned with, alright, who's doing what where, right? Charybdis just died to Neith. How did that happen? Basically, the short answer is I don't really know. Charybdis started out with whatever this is eventually going to wind up being, and then started building Transcendence as third item. So she's a little behind in stack. So this is why Charybdis is losing that fight, right? That is very specifically one of the reasons why, besides Neith having Mannequin Scepter and having an inherent advantage in 1v1 Hunter boxings in general, right? That's fine. Now, the Poseidon dying versus the Scylla dying, they're about even. Again, it's a 2-for-1 deal, so we still are up on this. Poseidon does have more gold, which is really nice. Maui is, of course, down. I'm 1-1. He's 1-2. That's great for me. I'm 2 levels up, which is a huge deal for me. because this is going to really allow me to actually, at least for now, bring in some decent damage. Now, I'm actually at the point where I really shouldn't be too concerned about that. My first ability is level 5. It's not going to get any stronger than this, okay? Mending Waters will get a little stronger a little earlier, and my ult, of course, will be a little stronger a little earlier, but those aren't really huge deals, so it's nice and all that I'm 2 levels higher, but that doesn't really make a difference in the long run, really. So at this particular point, I'm grabbing this green buff because it was dropped for me, and then what I'm going to do is hit the right lane to defend that, because Poseidon and Zilla both died in mid lane, so that lane is going to primarily freeze. Obviously, our wave lost by a bit there, but no one's in right lane, so I need to defend this lane right here while Charybdis respawns, right, and rejoins. Now, I was going to back until I realized Neith was going to clear this wave. I'm just going to try to poke her out here. I missed a whole bunch of shots because, wow, my accuracy is horrific, but it doesn't really make a difference. I'm not really looking to do anything other than poke, and I'm just trying to stall out this wave. I'm leaving because I don't want to get rooted, because that would really hurt, and I don't have a lot of health right now. And then here's Charybdis to take her lane back over and Rare Fine. So now back at this point, I'm looking for my cooldowns, right? And for some reason I can't find the item, but you know, I'm looking for my cooldowns. I get my Sentry Ward, out I go. Right, I'm looking for that delicious Omi regeneration. So now I'm going to return to mid lane again, because again, I don't want Charybdis to fall behind here. She's already 1 level down. I don't need to be in right lane.
Okay, thanks.
So, back to mid lane we go to help out Poseidon against the Maui Scylla combination. Now at this particular point, I'm just trying to ward. Here we go. I find a ward. I'm going to go destroy it, just to remove their vision. Poseidon was safe. The waves were coming in. He wasn't even at the midpoint yet. Leona ganks Charybdis for some reason. Not sure why that was necessary, but okay. I think Charybdis was... I'm sorry, not Charybdis. Leona was... While sure, she got the gank, and it's still a good thing for them and all, there are better targets, right? Like Bologna, who has now, just because of the counter gank by Thanatos, 1 left lane, right? Absolutely great decision by Thanatos, by the way, when he realized that Charybdis had just gotten slapped, that he had free reign on left lane. Now, once again, I'm rotating over here. Well, I was originally going to rotate over there to defend the lane, but I realized that saving Poseidon is probably a little bit more important here. Here's Cleodna, so I made the correct choice. I arrived back in time. I throw out a bubble just in case because I'm paranoid. I reveal where Cleodna is. At this particular point, I'm just, again, looking for Poseidon. I'm trying to keep Poseidon alive. I don't know where Cleodna went. Once again, I didn't call her missing, but then I also don't know where she went to in the first place. She might have gone left, she might have gone right. I've got no clue. I should have called it, though. Now, I know he just jumped in. This is a great ult from my perspective, right? I get some Omi. I get to do some damage to Maui. I do a lot of great damage to Maui here, actually. So, at this particular point, I activate that for even more damage. I'm not expecting a kill here. Leona enters the fight. I'm looking to just slow people down, keep Poseidon alive. It was on him, so now my priority is with her. I stun her. It's a really lovely thing. And we're just, you know, I'm fine right now because they all have nice low health. Poseidon's decently healthy. He's got mono. I know we can press something here. I'm just trying to decide what. And Poseidon is just a quick note here. Thanatos is correct. The Cleodna is getting fairly beefy here. He is correct, right? This is great communication, by the way, by the Thanatos. Thanatos is like, hey, Cleodna is doing really well here. We need to do something about this. Great communication by Conquest. This is a shout out. And, you know, we get the damage camp, obviously. Going back to farming. Right now, nothing really big is happening. I'm looking at Bologna because she's actually in a prime ganking position. She is way far up there. She's half dead. I'm moving right, though. Now, why am I moving right despite Bologna being so far up? The short answer is counter gank, right? I am expecting the enemy team to be paying more attention to left lane, which means that considering Charybdis' lower health here, this is a prime time to gank Neith and hopefully get Charybdis ahead, because Charybdis is low on health, and she's about to fight the minion wave the enemy minion wave on her side of the field. So very probably Neith is nearby. She either has cleared the Harpies, or she's looking to clear jungle, or she's right there pressing Charybdis. I don't know, but this is a really good indication. It's a really good time. Nothing happens. I actually see that I made an incorrect call here, because here's Neith right here. Right, wicked aggressive, right up there. I was actually correct in my initial estimations, but things are happening over here. Poseidon has been caught out because Poseidon moved too far up, which is my main concern here. So I basically turn around and I'm looking to save Poseidon rather than Charybdis. I had to make a choice. I chose Poseidon because I didn't know my. You can actually see here. Right, so I'm heading over here because I'm assuming Neith is somewhere over here, right?
Gank right lane.
And I call gank right lane, and then I see Charybdis here, and I see Poseidon here. Poseidon's out of position here, right? Now, why do I choose to help Poseidon? Because right now, this is where I make my decision. I make my decision right here, because I see the Cleodna show up on the map, and actually, this is, I was kind of already thinking about it, but once Maui shows up, I'm like, alright, Poseidon's going to die. Poseidon is out of position. Why am I banking on Poseidon? Poseidon is stronger right now than Charybdis is. No offense to Charybdis here. This is simply me deciding as a support what would be best for the team. And what would be best for the team is to preserve Poseidon, who is in the lead right now. Yes, his score isn't great. His score is approximately that of Charybdis's 1-2 versus Charybdis's 0-1. They're approximately equivalent. However, he is 2 levels ahead of the Scylla, where Charybdis is 1 level down from the Neith. So, also considering the fact that Bellona is 1 level ahead of Sun Wukong, and I am 2 levels ahead of Maui, and Thanatos is, of course, being 1 level down from Cleodna, by going towards mid lane to help save Poseidon, I can potentially accomplish 2 things. First, I can hopefully help slap down Cleodna and get her killed so Thanatos can catch up, and maybe even pass her by. My second hopeful objective is to keep Poseidon alive, because again, he is ahead, and preserving him is more beneficial to the team than preserving Charybdis, who is down by 1 level. Thirdly, this is kind of a bonus reason, not a deciding reason, but one of the minor ones. I can't guarantee Neith is there. See, by this point in time, I had called gank right lane, and Charybdis has canceled that. This is actually not 100% why I decided to follow that through, right? That actually has nothing to do with my decision here. My decision is purely based on the fact that Poseidon is worth more to the team right now, and hopefully by saving his life, I can knock down Cleodna, and get Thanatos ahead, right? If I went to right lane to continue the gank and killed Neith, or helped kill Neith, one of the two, it would just help Charybdis catch up, right? That would be the only benefit. Whereas with the mid lane decision, I can save Poseidon, who is ahead, and hopefully help Thanatos catch up, or buy him time, one or the other. So this is the actual reason I'm moving back to mid. I'm trying to save Poseidon. I'm going to be prioritizing Cleodna in an effort to help the Thanatos get ahead. He's way out of position, and he runs the wrong way. He runs into Scylla, of course, and, I'm just rushing to get there as quickly as possible. I do get here in time. I've got my ult in 30 seconds. Now he's nice and low. I'm just trying to keep people alive. Thanatos kills Cleodna. I don't even know where he got that kill on Cleodna. Tried to save Bellona, it doesn't work, but everyone else dies. We have Maui over here. I'm chasing Maui down because, quite frankly, why did I chase Maui down at that particular point? Well, there's a couple of things going on here, right? So, Thanatos kills Cleodna over here, which is absolutely fantastic news, alright? That makes all the difference right there. In fact, this game becomes ours at this point. It sounds weird, but look at how the teams are doing right now. Besides Charybdis, we now have everyone on the team either at or higher than their equivalent on the enemy team. Thanatos just hit level 13 due to killing Cleodna, but Cleodna is dead for a full 37 seconds here. That is a long time for a jungler to do a lot of interesting things, okay? That means Thanatos will very shortly be ahead of Cleodna. And this isn't even all that we get out of this fight, but this is the point at which, because we win the total fight, we win this match. Now, I can see that the Maui is over here, which, note this, by the way, for a second. Maui's over here, and right now my chief concern is trying to save Bologna. I failed to do so. Now, I could chase down the Sun Wukong, but I also know Maui's over here. Now, I know for a fact we're not catching up to Sun Wukong, okay? He's got the Bird of Nope, which I don't know if he is used or not, but since I don't know, I'm going to assume it's up, which is the safe assumption. I'm not going to catch up to him even with my Riptides because obviously I don't have enough Omi for that right now. So I'm moving over here. Maui happens to be really low on HP. I didn't know that. What I was originally planning on doing, him being low on HP is just a bonus, was to attack Maui and then press left tower. It's a tier 2, it'll give us a lot of benefits, and it will help us compensate for the fact that Bologna died in that fight to Sun Wukong, which could be a bit of a problem potentially. So we want to keep that momentum in the lane, right? Thanatos blinks in, kills Maui, and now at this point, alright, let's save Poseidon from Sun Wukong, which is my chief concern. He doesn't, he gets out of line, Sun Wukong was just trying to escape him apparently, and now at this particular point we can get whatever we want. We wind up taking the Scorpion, which is totally fine, and I want to take the Pyromancer at this point because we have the time to do so. So off we go. Yeah, and Poseidon, credit to him, he recognized, hey, we've got this great opportunity to do so as well. Let's go for this. Now, they just all respawn, but Sun Wukong is busy defending left lane for his minions. Neith and Scylla just, not Neith, Scylla and Maui just respawned. So we had plenty of time to do that with. We're lazy backing here, to be fair, which is risky, but it works out. Scylla just returns to mid lane. I'm able to get my Pridwin, and I'm able to start up on Shogun's Kusar, right? I grab Heavenly Wings because, of course, all the auto attackers. Poseidon has no escape. Thanatos has no escape. Bologna's escape is her ult. Having an increase in movement speed will help a lot of them out to either aggress or retreat. Now, this is the biggest indication right here of how much we really have this in the bag at this particular point in time. Thanatos is now able to gank right lane basically free of charge. Again, he is now ahead of Cleodna. He killed Cleodna. She was out for 37 seconds. He gets this kill on Neith. And I'm going to head over there because I don't know where Cleodna is. And right now, he just clearly got ulted, so it's a bit scary for him. Again, Cleodna could stop by. Charybdis didn't stick around in lane, which is fine. She didn't have to there. At this point, that's fine. You know, I'm going to be tanking. I'm tanking this and healing Thanatos, which you can do with Yemoja. It's a lot of fun. You can do this for anything. He gets jumped by Scylla and Sun Wukong. Unfortunately, he dies for this, which is fairly scary. But, you know, at this particular point in time, I get my ult down. We get a lot of damage out there. Right now, at this particular point, I'm kind of surprised. This move surprises me. It was a possibility, which is why I was looking in this direction, but the fact that he commits to this is very interesting to me. We are ahead at this particular point in time across the board, generally speaking, except Charybdis, who is catching up at this point. So for him to commit this hard, I know Scylla is right here, right? I'm aware of that. Maui's right there, too. And here's Cleodna, which is why he went in the first place. And then at this particular point, I'm just trying to create a distraction for my allies to get out, right? I throw out the bubble to slow them down. I get out. My allies get out. It's really great, right? Through a combination of my allies recognizing the bad situation and retreating, and me being able to distract the enemy just physically with my body. It wasn't even ability-based use. It was just, hey, there's this Yemoja here. Let's kill her, right? Basically is the mindset there. I go ahead and grab the Spellbound. Sorry, I'm taking too much damage from Scylla. I can sacrifice the Sentry Ward for the time being. Now, I don't know why Bologna went in here, but she's doing fairly well for herself. So, in we go, right? Now, what we're really fighting for right here... Now, I don't usually like fights that have no purpose, right? When we were fighting over here in the jungle behind the enemy's speed camp, that wasn't a fight with a purpose, ideally. We turned it into a purpose with Pyromancer, but I was there to save Poseidon, right? I didn't want it to necessarily be a fight for a reason. I was just trying to get Poseidon out of there. We wound up getting the Pyromancer. This fight actually has a very specific point, whereas the previous one did not. Again, the previous fight was just trying to get allies out, and unlike the first fight where I was trying to save Poseidon, in this particular case I was trying to save Charybdis and also Poseidon, and they do get out, which is lovely. But once they got out, I didn't need to be there anymore, which is why I straight up walk out, right? In this fight, we just lost our right tower. What we really want here is either the Gold Fury or their enemy right tower. We can do either, but that's what we're really fighting for right at this point. Bologna went in a little too early, in my opinion, but that's what we're fighting for. You know, Poseidon picks up Maui, and now again, I'm pressing for tower, for Gold Fury, something. I want to get rid of Neith because she's high damage, but no one's there, right? So I back off. Unfortunately, no one was there for that. I would really like to have pressed that. Again, I was looking for an objective to kind of bring us back from the loss of that tower. We don't need that, strictly speaking, but it would be a really nice benefit. I settled for the purple buff, but unfortunately, because the aggro stopped right after they got Maui, basically, we don't really get anything out of that because it's too risky to go for the Gold Fury. Neith is right there. We don't know where Scylla is because the only person who died was Maui. There's Scylla right there. I'm looking to try to get the Tribus ahead right now because there's nothing else going on. Now, you might see over here that Poseidon and Thanatos are fighting. I don't know who that is. Actually, let's go back 10 seconds and find out. I think it's Sun Wukong. You can see Scylla here. You can see Neith and Tribus fighting over here, right? And then, oh, that's Cleodna. So Poseidon and Poseidon and Thanatos go on Cleodna. Bologna is distracting Sun Wukong, and the Scylla's going to come in here, but the Scylla's going to be too late to probably save Cleodna, or at least arrive in the fight in time. Thanatos and Poseidon should be fine. Poseidon's ahead of Scylla, and Scylla's going to be late to that party. But if I can help Charybdis out, then that means that Charybdis can then take the tower afterwards, which again, I'm trying to get that objective afterwards. Now, I'm committing hard to this because I initially was thinking Scylla was going to be behind me, and she winds up not being so. I activate even my belt for this, right? And hope I do get the Neith, which is all I needed. Charybdis does get the tower. Now, this was a huge gamble for me, right? Because I go in, Neith backflips, so she's not got her backflip. I throw out my ult. I slightly miscalculate the distance here. She actually has an avenue of escape here. I should have backed out at this point, but I have, of course, my Pridwin shield. I'm, dedicating myself here. Now, the Charybdis does pick up what I'm laying down. She is looking for the tower here. I think she's assuming, actually, I don't even need to pause this for this. I think she's assuming I'm going to sacrifice myself so she can take the tower. I wind up not dying and getting the kill on Neith. You can see me using Riptide to catch up to the Neith's backflip there. We take the tower. I'm looking to leave, right? All is well that ends well. They lost the fight in left jungle, unfortunately, which isn't really a big deal in all honesty because the enemy team isn't really going to be able to do anything with it because the Pyromancer is down and they don't have enough people for the Fire Giant. How do I know? Neith is dead, Cleodna is dead. Scylla has some really good damage, but Sun Wukong probably doesn't have the damage he needs, and Maui isn't over on that side of the field in the first place. So I'm just going to clear mid lane because Poseidon died and he's not going to be able to be there to clear it, obviously. I don't know what Maui's even bothering with this for. No one's nearby. No one is going to do anything with me, right? He is just wasting his mana. I'm just trying to clear the wave right now. Maui heads left. That doesn't really make a difference. Bologna's on our side of the field, and it's not like he's going to steal the Scorpion from her. He winds up just going for the ward, which is fine. I don't know what Sun Wukong is thinking. He doesn't hit hard enough. I only took, like I said, 159 damage there. I'm just going back because I want to finish Shogun's Kusari at this point, and I don't want to steal any more golden experience from Poseidon, who I am concerned if I siphon too much off of him at this point, he's going to fall behind the Scylla. Right now, he's about even. And now I'm looking at my Manticore spikes. I get a replacement Sentry Ward for the Fire Giant, and off I go, right? Now, I don't know why Poseidon timed his damage camp attack then. He does lose the tower for it. Very odd timing choice there. I'm looking to help him out. Obviously, he's, getting counter-pressed by Scylla. I'm looking to go on ahead and initiate on this for as much damage as possible, and then we get really slapped. Now, I've made a mistake here, right? Very specifically. Now, Poseidon ults. He's getting ulted by Scylla, right? He gets hit. I know, I can see him getting hit. And then what happens next is, very specifically, that I continue to fight despite Cleodna showing up. And you can see when Cleodna shows up here, You know, I go in on this. I'm trying to distract the solo. Poseidon gets away. At this particular point in time, knowing that Cleona has just shown up here, right? You can see her right here. This is where I become aware of it. Was when I hear her ability. I should be leaving at this point. Thanatos is coming in. Okay? Thanatos comes in. I'm trying to at least get Scylla out of this. I fail. And ultimately, Thanatos dies, right? I can't save him. Because he goes in, we fail to kill Scylla, he's trying to get out. And Sun Wukong winds up slapping him down, and I'm too far away to do anything with that. Meanwhile, Bologna goes in, and now I'm just trying to get her out. At this point, I'm just trying to get people out. And I get ulted in, that's fine. That's not necessarily a problem. Bologna's not in it, so that's fine. I die for this, also fine. Right, but that was a bad mistake on my part. I should have been leaving. I stayed because Thanatos was coming in at the same time. I should have called retreat. I should have said, look, let's get the hell out of here, okay? Huge mistake on my part. And that was a bad decision. Which Thanatos calls me out for. And we have a nice little discussion in the team, which is good. Again, this is good communication. And we wind up having a conversation about how Poseidon is blaming this on Thanatos. This is my decision. Yes, Thanatos swayed my decision by ulting in. Although he had reason to. I was there, Scylla was low. From his standpoint, it looked like a good kill. It looked like a good opportunity, from his perspective. Right, and Thanatos says, I didn't run in, and this is correct. This is my decision. I stop for a moment, and I say, you know, hey, that was my decision. Right? I take full credit for that. That was a poor decision on my... that was a poor decision on my initiation, right? I thought her escape was down. I thought we could get that. Nope, it was not true. So we died for nothing, right? It happens. Now at this particular point where I said we had, we had the game in the bag, we just threw away the game. Well, we threw away the bag at the very least, and now it's back to evens, right?
Enemy missing.
We now are back to kind of a status quo position where we can win or lose this game. Alright, at this point in time. So just keep that in mind as we sort of progress through here. But right now I'm just trying to get this so Cleona doesn't see that she's unaware. And here we go. Boom. Now, what I don't do is call missing for Cleona. I saw her go to the right lane. I should have warned Cleona. I don't.
Enemy ultimate down.
And now at this particular point, what my concern is defending the left tower. When in, solo wards, Thanatos is going on Maui. I'm concerned that Cleona is going to pick them off, right? Doesn't happen, right? They lose track of Maui. I retreat. Sun Wukong initiates on Thanatos. Now at this particular point, I'm just trying to figure out what we're doing here, right? What's our goal here? I'm just trying to figure out what the enemy is doing. The enemy is initiating because they have the advantage right now, so I'm just trying to get people out. I ult. Unfortunately, it's not enough to save Poseidon. I'm trying to get out. Okay? That's what's going on here. I want to get Tribus out. She is stuck behind tower, basically. I wind up getting slapped down by Scylla here. I know at this point I was trying to get that. If I'd gotten that stun on Maui, I would have gone in to try to finish him off and then sacrifice myself to take out Maui. It wouldn't have been worth it in retrospect, but I was going to make the attempt. Scylla goes in on Tribus. This is a really interesting decision by Scylla because they're the same level, first off. And second off, mages generally lose 1v1s to hunters because hunters are designed, generally speaking, to be high single target damage, and mages are generally designed to do large amounts of just regular old, massive damage. Right? Absolutely fantastic. So this, I'm concerned because if Scylla lands this ult, we have a problem. Tribus is going to die, Scylla's going to pull farther ahead of Poseidon. Misses because I think the Scylla makes a really interesting combination of mistakes here. She, first off, goes through the wall right here. This is very visible. The Tribus actually sees this out of the corner of her eye right there. Now, Scylla hits the root, hits the blast, and then she ults me. Why exactly she decides to go ult me? I think her crush didn't do as much damage as she thought it was going to, so she thinks that because I apparently have less HP, even though I've got still 900 HP, no problem here, but I have protections, right? And she didn't hit me with the crush, so she's dealing with the full protections, and she misses anyways. So that's a really good kill by the Charybdis. That's a really great thing. We have Yoda behind us. I get ulted by me. Now that's what surprises me, right? I'm not surprised even remotely by Cleona being behind us. That doesn't bother me. She's an assassin. I expect that to some extent. She also misses her hit. It's fine. This surprises me because from where this is positioned, Neith is behind us. And they're still back there. So at this particular point, we have now got Neith trapped. Cleona in danger. Right, so at this particular point, I'm activating my Belt of Frenzy to help Cleona survive. I'm looking to body block for Cleona. I get a nice stun there. She picks that up. It's a really lovely time. They basically way overcommitted. And that's a really interesting other thing that is a fun fact about Yemoja. Even if it looks like she's got no resources, as you've seen it as I referenced at the beginning of this match, it doesn't really make a difference because it's only 2 or 3 Omi to use an ability, and I'm generating at this point 1.6 Omi every 5 seconds. I can have abilities up very, very quickly. Alright, so even if I look like I have no options, as long as I have health, I can turn things around as Yemoja, and that's something Yemoja can always do. Right, I'm just taking a moment here to take out the ward to make me nervous. Off the Pyromancer, it's absolutely lovely. I'm going back because now we have the Pyromancer buff. Charybdis takes mid tower. She should be able to take out Sun Wukong. She is a hunter versus a solo lane tank. She should be able to do so. She gets out safely. Doesn't kill him, but she gets out safely, which is about minimally what I expected. We're fine. Right? That's okay. She's gonna back. Bit of a lazy back there. It's a little bit risky, but that's fine. Health bars, let's do some stuff. I really shouldn't be. I should be leaving him to his own devices here because he's a little bit behind, but here I am. Making a slightly incorrect choice. At this particular point in time, I'm just looking for golden experience. I don't want to press anything right now because right at this particular moment, we're back. We've been maintaining a fairly steady balance point now for quite some time. And pardon me. Right now, thanks to the paranoia of my allies, I'm expecting them to attack the fire giant. Rewatching this for this recording, I should not have been expecting that. Both teams are alive. Both teams are at relatively full health. To attack for either team to attack the fire giant is asking to lose a fight. But because pretty consistently for the past, I would say 5 or so minutes of this match, maybe it's a little bit less, I've had my allies say, defend the fire giant. I'm saying defend the fire giant. There was talk earlier by Bologna, I think, saying, enemies of the fire giant. I'm a little paranoid about it now. Unfortunately, I've been influenced by my allies. I shouldn't be. Here we are. Now, they initiate on Bologna, which is an interesting choice. I'm able to get a fantastic ult off on them. Poseidon absolutely picks that up. We are able to pick out Yoda immediately, Maui right afterwards. Some Wukong commits from behind, which is a huge mistake on his part. Thanatos takes out Scylla in the background, and we're able to wipe out Sun Wukong. Well, I say we wipe out Sun Wukong, but it's obviously delayed. Now this is actually a really great example of Riptide being used aggressively, because what he has basically given me here is control. He has given up control. This is the one downside of Sun Wukong's ult. He gives up all control over his future, basically. If his team is not winning the team fight, he doesn't have any control. It's just a matter of choice of where he goes. So what I'm doing right here is I am very specifically watching where he's going, because I want to put down a Riptide. He's going in this direction. I throw down a Riptide. Boom, he runs right into me. And then he dies. Like, this is the beauty of Riptide, and it's particularly effective in the jungles. Now again, I use Riptide to hasten Poseidon and I's arrival at the fire giant. Meet is up. It's a very slim possibility, but the possibility does exist that Neith could steal this. Now at this particular point, you're going to see me not use my Omi for regeneration, damage. You're going to see me use Mending Waters to reduce the damage my allies are taking. You see that Poseidon actually just loses the health shield, doesn't really lose much in the way of health, so that's really lovely for him. And that's because Mending Waters, it's level 4 at this point. Now keep in mind that I was only using Mending Waters there because it is rank 4. 3 to 5 is generally where I use Mending Waters to act as a health shield to absorb allies' damage against the Fire Giant. It's really going to help them stay alive for a good bit longer. It's going to make sure, the primary reason for this is that way if we are attacked in the Fire Giant, we're less likely to lose. Because when people gank a Fire Giant fight, they're expecting the enemy team to be decently damaged, right? That is the expectation there. But by using Mending Waters consistently throughout a Fire Giant fight, you can make sure that only your allies' health shields are really going down, because there's one person who is pulling the main amount of Fire Giant aggro, but everyone gets hit by those little meteors and the lava pools. Well, your Mending Waters does a really great job from ranks 3 to 5 of absorbing that damage, making sure that your allies are close to full health even if we get jumped in the Fire Giant. Why did I use it there when only Neith is alive? The short answer is habit. It's something that I've gotten into the habit of doing every Fire Giant fight when I'm Yemoja, if I don't have my ult. If I have my ults, I'll generally play defense because I can wall off a whole area with my ult if I need to, which makes her unusually good at defending a Fire Giant. But in this particular case, because I didn't have my ult, I just fell right into my normal habit of just spamming Mending Waters as often as I could under the Fire Giant. That's why I do that. That's why it works. That is why I've developed that habit very deliberately. It's not an accident. It's just something... Should I have developed it as a habit? Maybe, maybe not. But it also helps just keep your allies healthy, so that way after you're done with the Fire Giant, you also all don't have to go back. You can keep on going to other objectives as we have done here. Tribdis goes off to clear the jungle for some gold, and Poseidon and I are moving to mid lane to hopefully take the... Well, I was personally seeing the mid tower, but he wants Gold Fury, so we had completely different ideas in mind. But he is making the correct call here. Now I just go on ahead and phase through, because Neith doesn't really concern me at this point. I'm one level down from her. I'm not really concerned. We go onto the Gold Fury. Now I'm kind of keeping my eye out for enemies, which is why I position myself here. I'm trying to heal the Corona as well. No enemies show up, this is fine. I was thinking about it though. I was ready to use Riptide if I needed to, which is a great way to keep enemies off of that very similar way. And then after we clear the damage buff, I am now just looking for golden experience. I really should be backing at this point to grab Manticore's spike, but I decide I'm going to go ahead and clear the mid wave. Solo shows up. I'm not going to clear the mid wave. I'm just going to go and clear the green buff for gold experience and, of course, my buff. So that's what I'm going to go do. I have pretty good only regeneration at this point. I'm not too concerned about using my abilities extensively here. My allies aren't really doing too much. Bellona's getting ganked in the left lane, so I'm off to go save her over there, or try to. Okay? Now again, I'm using Riptide to make tracks here, to hopefully get there in time, because I don't know how many enemies are going to show up. They just kill Scylla, which is great. And Thanatos is going in on that, which is also great. And then, I'm trying to intercept Yemoja here, which doesn't really work. And then I'm just trying to buy my allies time to take the tower. The enemy re-initiates, they go really aggressive here, so I'm now at this point trying to save as many allies as possible. Get Poseidon the kill, great, or at least help keep him alive at the very least. And again, I'm just trying to keep my allies alive here. I want to take the tower. I'm not sure my allies are really up for it, though. They're not all in great condition. I miscalculate the damage. I think I've got a little bit more time than I do. I don't. That's just a simple miscalculation. I thought I was going to take a little bit less damage than that. It's not a really big deal. We got the tower. Tribdis was able to split push and take the right Phoenix, which is really nice. And, at this particular point, they're rejoining Cleona. Not Cleona, I keep calling her that. Tribdis to try to save her. They dive mid-tower for some unholy reason. I upgrade to War Banner because at this point, why not? Right, and then I'm looking for a cloak for the last bit of regeneration. Once again, Scylla picks a fight with Tribdis she can't win. Second time she's done that. But at this particular point, we're primed to make a final push in. Once I come back in 10 seconds. They have 2 enemies dead for over 30 seconds. This is a really great opportunity for my allies. Okay, they're trying to take that new Phoenix. The one who's tanking. Yemoja's trying to scare off Charybdis. Off I go, using Riptide to get there as quickly as possible. Right, they kill Neath. Poseidon is for some reason clearing the damage camp. Right? Now at this particular point in time, because Poseidon was clearing the damage camp, I don't think they're going to do it, so I go ahead and stop the green buff. Right? I just don't anticipate at this particular point that they're going to be able to pull anything else off. Yes, all the enemies are dead, but at this particular moment, you know, it's whatever. At this particular point, I want to push down right lane, but they already pushed down middle, and they're going for the Titan. I'm having a heart attack because Scylla's about to come back. Sun Wukong is about to come back. I think they're about to get slapped under Titan. In fact, Thanatos does get slapped under Titan, just not by either of the gods that I was expecting. So, Charybdis is just out there, and I'm going to try to save her. That's what I'm going in for. Right? Try to use Riptide to keep them off. Now, notice that I had to be very careful with my positioning of that. Pay very close attention because I put it, watch this circle here. I put it very close to the edge here. You can actually see where, even though it looked like I put it out for the max range, it's actually pushing that way because the little indicator is on the other side there. And, you know, this big one, I'm trying to get bring this out, right names, and she just goes in, which I'm having a heart attack. I'm trying to get her out. I'm trying to keep her alive. And I absorb the Neath ult and the enemy team surrenders. Now, pivotally, would we have won that match? Yes. Now, the enemy team surrenders because, quite frankly, at this particular point in time, they were just about to kill Scylla. They probably would have killed me. We would have just grouped up and killed them. Also, additionally, they had a huge amount of fire minions about to come in to damage the Titan. So all we would have needed to do, because even with all that effort put into killing Charybdis, they were not going to be in a position to immediately defend the Titan from fire minions. There was a chance some of them would die to the fire minions. At the end of all of that, yes, they would have survived the fire minion onslaught. Absolutely. This would not have been the end of them right here and now. But because of the damage that the fire minions would have been able to do, even in the amount of time it would have taken them to kill these fire minions, all we would have had to do is group up and launch one final attack, and we would have won. Okay. Now, at this particular point in time, I was close enough to my full build. Obviously, I was going to be building probably Mantle of Discord for the extra protections. I might have gone into a Spirit Robe, maybe. I hadn't decided at that point. It would have really depended upon my needs at the moment. But I want to take a quick moment to also talk about the other builds present here. But overall, before I get into the builds, one of the overall benefits of Yemoja, which the mid lane fight with just Charybdis and I clearly indicated, is that Omi regenerates a lot faster than what people are prepared for. People see low Omi on Yemoja and they think, she can't do anything. Yeah, give me 10 seconds. I'll show you what I can do. Literally 10 seconds. It can get very ugly very quickly, especially once you get Pridwin down. Now, you don't usually build Pridwin earlier because, unfortunately, the first stage of Pridwin is 900 gold, which is very expensive for a first item. Alright, that is a huge barrier to entry there, first off. Second off, the other reason you don't want Pridwin as your second item is you do want some more substantial protections right off the top than just 30 of each. You build it third because you do want some of the protections of the secondary damage type, in this case magic damage, but the physical damage, physical protections you also want so that you can protect against the physical damage that the enemy is primarily doing. In this particular case, they had 3 physicals, so it was Sovereignty and then Pridwin. Again, Pridwin giving us both protections, a little bit of the magic protections we'll need, and additional physical protections, which we also need right now. But once you get Pridwin, your Omi regeneration gets up to a point where if you don't need to back, you probably shouldn't. Alright, as long as our enemies, as long as our allies in trouble, you know, that's all you really need to worry about. And you also probably will have noticed that Yemoja is unusually good at counter-initiation. She's really good at responding to enemy initiation attempts. Although she can initiate fairly well as well, especially when using Riptide judiciously. She really excels in the counter initiation because she can force enemies to commit or not commit according to what their personal desires are. She can kill some momentum with Riptide if it's placed well enough. She can more easily kill escapes with that. She can do all kinds of things. Now, this isn't going to be the only Yemoja episode I'll be doing because I didn't quite get to show you all the cool things Yemoja can do, but it was a good baseline indication of some of the really cool things Yemoja can do. Now, going back to the Maui build here, Maui's build is overall very good, except for that starter item. He's actually got a really good build here. Barring Warflag, which we'll pass over lightly, well, I've already talked about the pros and cons of that, and based on Sun Wukong's kit, he splashed in Berserker's Shield, which is interesting. He probably did that in response to Warflag. He probably would have built Gladiator's Shield normally, but it is very interesting for that reason. But anyways, back to the main point here. We do have, of course, Pestilence. Great pickup. I wouldn't have bought this third. He should have picked up Sovereignty third, Pestilence fourth. He basically just has Pestilence and Sovereignty flipped here. Because again, we still have a 3 physical dominant comp. We have Bologna, Thanatos, Charybdis. 3 pretty substantial sources of physical damage here. Okay? His third item really should have been the physical protection of Sovereignty. Sovereignty is absolutely a great pick for him, but it should have been third. Pestilence should have been fourth. Right? Also remember that Bologna's self heal and my self heal, not myself, well, my self heal through Mending Waters, but my heals and Bologna's self heal are very, very weak at the mid, even up to the mid game. It's only in the late game that they become usually fairly dangerous. If you level up Bologna's flail, then her self heal actually can get dangerous in the mid game. But my healing remains fairly weak pretty consistently until the gradual shift from the mid game to the late game. So he didn't need Pestilence that early for one thing, and second, again, he really should have needed some physical protections at that particular point. But other than that issue there and the eyebrow raising war flag, his build here is good. Beyond that, not really a whole lot else to say. A lot of these builds are fairly good. Again, I still think Sun Wukong should have gone with Gladiator's Shield. I think that would have done him more good. He was obviously building this strange hybrid kind of build because he had Devourer's Gauntlet, and he also had Brawler's Speedstick for the ability damage base. He had cooldowns. He evolved the Bluestone Pendant into the Bluestone Brooch for the ability damage rather than the Corrupted Bluestone for the attack speed and ability damage. So that was fairly interesting. Neith made the interesting decision to double stack. It can work. Charybdis, by the way, eventually wound up with Chinsai's, which is good. But besides the Maui's interesting choices, I don't really see a whole lot here that's wrong. Cleona built Transcendence as a third item, which is fairly interesting. It does work. I've seen it work very well. It's a bit risky, though, and I don't think it paid off for her here because you'll actually correlate if you look back at the point where she kind of got slapped around here. Wait a minute. Where do we get that interesting fight with Poseidon? At the midpoint, whatever. At the midpoint, really, you're looking at this terribly interesting problem where she is spending some time in the mid game now to try to build stacks and get fairly beefy, and that's a bit risky to do, especially since she followed that up with Soul Eater. So about the midpoint of the game, which is probably where she started dying a bit more often, because she was building stacks, she wasn't as strong as she could be. She was really banking on that late game, which is a trend also shared by Maui. So once they saw probably me as Yemoja, again, Yemoja is devastating in the early game, and this is a fairly widely accepted problem. Fighting against Yemoja, she has really ugly to face early game. She probably also was going to bank on that late game, right? It just so happened that we were able to really very slowly, very painfully snowball our way, even if we had a bit of melting, at the midpoint there, but we were able to very slowly snowball our way into victory, and it worked out for us. But double stacking like that as a jungler can be quite risky. And again, Tribus is a prime example where the hardest part of the game for her was the early game where she wasn't building stacks as early as Neith was. Neith was beating her out in stacks, and Tribus had a problem with that. Well, it's the same thing with Cleodon. When Cleodon started building stacks and Thanatos wasn't, Thanatos got a damage spike in comparison to Cleodon right then and there, and she was just banking on the fact that she would be able to make a recovery in the late game, which unfortunately for her, she never was given the chance to do, right? So that's all I really want to say about builds here, because again, I discussed Yemoja's build in the previous episode. So with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.